Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Giridhari Radha Giridhari Radha. Jaya Jagannath Jaya Jagannath Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadra Jaya Gauranitai 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 Jaya Gauranitai Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Gurudev 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajakachaри Ashtottara Sata Sri A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय श्री श्री राधा गिरिधारी भगवान की जय श्री श्री जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा मैया की जय श्री श्री गौर निताय की जय निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल all glories to the assembled devotees Hare Krishna all glories to the assembled devotees Hare Krishna all glories to the lotus feet of Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Srila Gurudev. Hare Krishna. Welcome everybody today. We will continue reading from Srila Prabhupada's Lilamrita. Just at the end of the chapter, London, a dream fulfilled. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Prabhupada was 73. He had now opened 21 temples in 3 years. Recently, he had told some of his disciples that they should try to form a governing body for ISKCON to relieve him of the management and allow him to concentrate fully on presenting Krishna conscious literature. This literature could be introduced all over the world into homes, schools, and colleges for the benefit of everyone. It would be in such literature that he would live on. How much time he had left in this world, he didn't know, he said. But he wanted to go on serving and trying to please his Guru Maharaj life after life. Nevertheless, despite Prabhupada's desire to retire from active work and absorb himself in writing books, here he was installing deities in a new temple and protecting them from his disciples' carelessness. Had he not been present, the celebration would have been a disaster. So many hardworking disciples, and they still needed his personal guidance. ISKCON was just beginning to grow. Prabhupada wanted to open not just 21 temples, but at least 108. His world traveling and book printing were just beginning, and like everything else, the number of disciples would increase. The prestige of his movement would increase, and with it, opposition from the atheists. Krishna consciousness was growing, and Prabhupada was in the forefront. All around I see bright, he said. This is the glory of Krishna. He saw himself as a servant of his spiritual master. The bright future was in Krishna's hands. Prabhupada called for Shyam Sundar. Although Prabhupada was angry at first because of the near disaster on the altar, he admitted that his disciples had done their best. The temple was beautiful, he told Shyam Sundar. He liked it. He then asked that a sign be placed out front with gold letters on a blue background. Radha Krishna Temple. This temple was constructed with great labor and effort by Shyam Sundar Das Adhikari. On the day of Prabhupada's departure from London, he distributed some of his personal effects, such as sweaters and scarves, to his disciples. He then went downstairs alone into the temple to see the deities. He offered fully prostrated obeisances on the floor for a long time and then stood looking at Radha and Krishna. Yamuna Mataji quotes, Prabhupada was looking at the deities with complete devotion. He loved those deities. He had commented about their exquisite beauty and how they complemented each other. How sometimes Radharani looked more beautiful, but how Krishna's moon-like face and eyes were shining. Prabhupada saw me and matter-of-factly said, if you practice what I have taught you and follow the instructions of how I have taught you to worship the deity, and if you read the books that we have printed, it is sufficient for you to go back to Godhead. You did not learn anything new. Simply practice what I have taught you, and your life will be perfect. Then he left, just left. Srila Prabhupada ki, Prabhupada Vilamrita ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Srimad Bhagavatam Puranam Amalam Yad Vaishnavanam Priyam Yasmin Parahamsyam Ekam Amalam Jnanam Param Giyate Tatra Jnana Viraga Bhakti Sahitam Naishkarmyam Avishkritam Tat Shrinvan Supathan Vicharana Paro Bhaktya Vimuchye Naraha Bhaktya Vimuchye Naraha Bhaktya Vimuchye Naraha. Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Share my screen. Okay, so today we'll continue reading from Canto 5, Chapter 7, and today's text 5. This is the activities of King Bharat. So this is also a verse that we can't, there's no meter as such. We just have to recite it just like this. Ije cha bhagavatam yagya kratu rupam kratubhir uchchavahi Shraddhaya Ritagni Hotra Darsha Purnamasa Chaturmasya Pashu Somanam Prakriti Vikriti Bhir Anusavanam Chatur Hotra Vidhina. So we'll go for word translation. Somebody would like to read? Synonyms?
Krishna Prabhu Dandavat Pranam. Ije worshipped cha also Bhagavantam, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Yagna Kruta Rupam, having the form of sacrifice without animals and sacrifices with animals. Kratubi, by such sacrifices, Ucho Bachwai, very great and very small, Shraddhaya, with faith, Arita, being performed, Agnihotra, the Agnihotra Yagna, Darsha, of the Darsha Yagna, Puranmasha, the Purnamasha Yagna, Chaturmasha, of the Chaturmasha Yagna, Pashu Shomanam, of the Yagna with animals and the Yagna with Somrash, Prakriti, by full performances, Vikritivi, and by partial performance, Anushavanam, almost always, Chaturhotra Vidina, by regulative principles of sacrifice directed by four kinds of priests. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Somebody would like to read the translation?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. May I?
Yes, please, Mataji.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. With great faith, King Bharat performed various kinds of sacrifice. He performed the sacrifices known as Agnihotra, Drasha, Purnamas, Chaturmasya, Pashu Yagya, wherein a horse is sacrificed, and Som Yagya, wherein a kind of beverage is offered. Sometimes these sacrifices were performed completely and sometimes partially. In any case, in all the sacrifices, the regulations of Chaturhotra were strictly followed. In this way, Bharat Maharaj worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you.
Mataji, bit of a purport. Somebody would like to read the purport?
Krishna Prabhuji. Animals like hogs and cows were offered in sacrifice to test the proper execution of the sacrifice. Otherwise, there was no purpose in killing the animal. Actually, the animal was offered in the sacrificial fire to get a rejuvenated life. Generally, an old animal was sacrificed in the fire and it would come out again in a youthful body. Some of the rituals, however, did not require animal sacrifice. In the present age, animal sacrifices are forbidden. As stated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Ashwamedham Gabalambam Sanyasam Palapoitrikam Devarena Sutotpottim Kalau Pancha Vivarjayet. In this age of Kali, 5 acts are forbidden: the offering of a horse in sacrifice, the offering of a cow in sacrifice, the acceptance of the older order of Sannasa, the offering of oblation of flesh to the forefathers, and a man's begetting children in his brother's wife. Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi 17.164. Such sacrifices are impossible in this age due to the scarcity of expert brahmanas or ritveja who are able to take the responsibility. In the absence of these, the Sankirtana Yogya is recommended. Yogyai Sankirtana Prayai Yajantihi Shumedhasaha. Bhagavatam 11.5.32. After all, sacrifices are executed to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yogyartha Karma. The activities should be carried out for the Supreme Lord's pleasure. In this age of Kali, the Supreme Lord in his incarnation of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu should be worshipped with his associates by performance of Sankirtana Yogya, the congregational chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. This process is accepted by intelligent men. Yogyai Sankirtana Prayai Yajantihi Shumedhasaha. The word Shumedhasaha refers to intelligent men who possess very good brain substance. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Thank you, Mataji. Om Ajnana-timirandhasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Let's read the translation again. With great faith, King Bharat performed various kinds of sacrifice. He performed the sacrifices known as Agnihotra, Darsha, Purnamasa, Chaturmasya, Pashu Yagya, wherein a horse is sacrificed, and Soma Yagya, wherein a kind of beverage is offered. Sometimes these sacrifices were performed completely and sometimes partially. In any case, in all the sacrifices, the regulations of Chaturhotra were strictly followed. In this way, Bharat Maharaj worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So from this chapter, we are reading the activities of Bharat Maharaj. And it is this chapter, it's a small chapter again, 14 verses only, is giving us a glimpse into the life and activities of Bharat Maharaj prior to his retiring from family life, retiring from his kingly duties, and dedicating himself fully to the devotional service of the Lord. So, whilst he was ruling his kingdom, what was he doing? And this particular verse today is very nice. We of course know he was a very learned and a very experienced king. He was a devotee. And in this particular verse, it is specifically mentioned about the sacrifices that he was undertaking. In one of the purports, Prabhupada writes that I think it's 10th canto. He says that for a grihastha or a householder, every single day we must be doing 5 sacrifices, right? We should be doing. So, what are these 5 sacrifices? First sacrifice, Prabhupada says, is we should be offering. So, okay, let's say before we understand the 5 sacrifices, what is sacrifice? Sometimes, we confuse sacrifice with austerity or penances. They're all different terms. So, what does sacrifice actually mean? If you just go by dictionary word language. So, sacrifice, the word itself means what? Means that we are voluntarily, for some purpose, we are offering something that is very dear to us, to somebody. So, whoever we are surrendering to, we are sacrificing. So, in the process of surrendering has to be demonstrated by sacrifice. So if we are saying we are surrendered to this person, that means we have to sacrifice for that person. Like in a material world, we see things around us. We are surrendered to the boss at work. So what are we doing? We are sacrificing our time. We are sacrificing our energy, our resources, right, for that particular objective, to show our element of surrender to that authority, so that we get something in return. But in the material world, sacrifice is a business transaction. We are doing something to get something in return. If the return stops, sacrifice will continue. No, it will stop. So sacrifice we are doing anyway. But sacrifice has to be done in the right way. Like in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna mentions there are 3 forms of sacrifice. Sacrifice in the mode of goodness, mode of passion, mode of ignorance. So as a human being, sacrifice has to be done. So we have to voluntarily, for a higher purpose, give something, offer something, give away something to somebody. So that whole action or that whole consciousness is very important. Whilst in the material world we expect something, Krishna is saying that this yajna you have to do as a matter of duty. And you have to do it as per scriptural injunctions. You cannot just do any form of sacrifice. It's nowadays, it's easy. Oh, you just offer this animal in sacrifice because I have nothing to lose. The animal is losing its life, and I'm ultimately, after that sacrifice, going to satisfy my tongue. So it's not about what I'm offering or losing, or so-called losing. It's about what I'm gaining. Whereas real sacrifice is something that we have to offer, something that is valuable to us, something that is important for us. So that sacrifice is the dharma of a human being. So Prabhupada writes that there are 5 types of sacrifice we should be doing. First sacrifice is we should offer something to Brahman. How do we offer something to Brahman? By offering our inclination to study Vedic literature. So when we are studying Vedic literature, we are actually making a sacrifice to Brahman. So when we are reading Srila Prabhupada's books, we are actually doing that. That's number one. Number two, we have to daily offer a sacrifice to our forefathers. For those of you who have questions about Pindadan and Pitra Puja, this is very important, or this may throw some light on your questions. Daily, we have to make sacrifice to forefathers. How? By making offerings to them. By making offerings to them daily, not once a year. Third, we have to sacrifice and make offering to all the creatures, all the living entities. And how do we do that? By putting aside a part of our meal for them, in their, like, indicating, keeping aside some meal. So if you see in many societies or many customs in India, the Vedic culture, I mean, when the Janayu happens, after the child has the thread ceremony and he starts eating after that, he has to make, in I don't know about other places, but in Bengal, next to the plate, you have to make 5 small little offerings with everything. Like just at the side of the plate, on the table, or wherever you're eating, you put small 5 offerings. So little bit of rice, little dal, or whatever you're eating. You make that, then you offer some water, and you offer it to, it made an offering to all the creatures. Fourth, to all human beings. So the third one was to all living entities. This one is to all human beings. How do we do that sacrifice? By extending hospitality, by being a good host to them. We make a sacrifice. In fact, it is said that Grihastha should, all of you know, that we need to go out of the house on the street and shout that, is anybody here wanting to have some prasad? Is anybody hungry? And whoever comes in, they need to be fed, and then we should honor our prasadam. So that is number 4. And then number 5, we have to make a sacrifice to the devatas, or the demigods. And how do we do that? The devatas accept our offerings how? Through the mouth of Agni. So we have to engage in fire sacrifice. Now, of all these 5, an average person only knows the 5th sacrifice. That is the fire sacrifice. Rest of them, they're not even aware of. But these 5 sacrifices are there for all householders. It has to be done. Now, are we doing them, or should we do them? We'll discuss later on. So let's come back to the verse, that keeping in mind that these are 5 sacrifices that definitely need to be done by every householder as per the Vedic injunction. What was Bharat Maharaj doing? So this verse says, Ije cha bhagavantam yagya kratu rupam. So Ije means worshipped. So he was worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He was not worshipping any devata. He was not worshipping any ordinary human being or any other living entity. He was worshipping the Supreme Person. How? Yagya kratu rupam. So he performed some sacrifices which involved animals, and some sacrifices which did not involve any animal. So he did both those sacrifices. How did he do them? Then that's very important. So anything that we do, we understand the most important element of any activity, specifically any sacrifice, is we need to have faith. The word here in the verse is shraddhaya, with faith. If there is no faith, it's no point. There's no point. The potency will not act. The benefits of that sacrifice we will not be able to get if there is no faith. So there has to be full faith in what we do. In fact, whether it is charity, whether it is sacrifice, whether it is penances, whether it is service, anything that we do has to be done with faith. So what did he do? What kinds of sacrifice? He just didn't do one sacrifice. There's a whole list of sacrifices. Like we have to do these 5 sacrifices. Bharat Maharaj, he did all of these sacrifices. Let's look at some of the things that are listed. So here there is the sacrifice known as Agnihotra, then Darsha, Purnamasa, Chaturmasya, Pashu Yagya, and Soma Yagya. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 yagyas. Although in some cases, the Darsha Purnamasa is considered 1 yagya. So technically, there are 5 yagyas that Bharat Maharaj was engaging in. Then the last part of this verse is very important. And what is that? It said, Prakriti Vikriti Bhir Anusavanam Chaturhotra Vidhina. So Chaturhotra Vidhina means, Vidhi means the rules and regulations. So he was not randomly doing, just to please the Lord, he was randomly doing any 5 sacrifices that he liked. No. He was doing these 5 sacrifices under the guidance of Chaturhotra and following the Vidhi. So Chaturhotra means, Chatur means 4. And Hotra. So Chaturhotra means Hotra means priests. So there are 4 types of priests who were guiding him based on the guidelines for sacrifice to do those 5 sacrifices that he was undertaking. So here Prabhupada mentions that there are 4 kinds of priests. So who are these 4 kinds of priests? Have you seen a sacrifice where there are 4 priests? Usually we don't see much sacrifice anyway, and whatever sacrifice we see, there is 1 priest who comes, who does some mantra, which we don't know anything about anyway. We don't know why the sacrifice is happening. And most of the other people, they go there just because they have to keep some obligation based because the host has invited them. So there is no understanding of the sacrifice. There is no vidhi or any bona fide vidhi that we are aware of anyway. And we don't even know whether that sacrifice should be done by 1 priest or 4 priests. And we don't even know whether the priest is qualified or not. So let's look at what are the 4 types of priests that are required for any such big sacrifices, which are important. So the first priest is called the Brahman. Of course, we know Brahmanas perform these kind of fire sacrifices. So first is the Brahmana. He's the chief priest. And he follows the regulations of the Atharva Ved. He may be chanting also some of the mantras from Atharva Ved. So he's the Brahmana. That's the first priest. The second priest is what is called the Advaryu, meaning he's the assistant priest. So his job is to build the altar, to offer the oblations in the fire based on the instructions of the Brahmana or the main priest. So he's assisting the main priest, and he's called Advaryu. Interestingly, there are still certain families that at least I knew in India who have got the surname Advaryu, and it used to sound very out of the ordinary. But now, after reading Prabhupada's books and understanding what it means, we knew that perhaps their family lineage was engaged in assisting the priests. And so they got the surname Advaryu. So I had a friend in my architecture college in Bombay who had that surname. Okay, so first is Brahmana, second is Advaryu. Third is Hotri. So Hotri is the priest who will invoke the devatas. When the sacrifice is going on, the process is going, at one point, the devatas have to be invoked. So this particular priest, his job is to invoke the devatas when the Brahmana tells him to do so, when the offerings are ready to be made. Right? So he invokes the devatas. Then the fourth and the last category of priest is the Udgatri. So third is Hotri, and this is Udgatri. So Udgatri is the priest who chants the mantras, who sings, who recites the mantras, usually from Samaved. Yeah. So the Hotri takes guidance from Rigved. So all the four Vedas are the four priests. They take guidance from all the four Vedas for any usually any kind of sacrifice. So Hotri is following Rig Veda and invoking the Devatas, and the Udgatri is chanting the Vedic mantras, usually from Samaved, which has got this chanda and the meters of reciting. And that's how the Yajman has to have all these four priests, and they conduct the sacrifice with all the regulations. They need to be fully qualified, fasting and purity, cleanliness, and all that thing that we know. And the sacrifice is then successfully concluded. And then the Yajman, the king, or whoever is organizing the sacrifice gets that benefit. So here in this verse, it is said that Bharat Maharaj, with great faith, he was worshipping the Lord by doing all these various types of sacrifices under the regulations of this Chaturhotra, or these four priests. And he was doing all of these 5 yajnas. And it's interesting that, specifically these yajnas are given. We don't really need to know details about this yajna, but it's good to have an idea what these yajnas actually involves. Why? Because somebody might say, let's say, for example, here it is mentioned that there is Agnihotra Yajna. So somebody might say, okay, come, we'll do Agnihotra Yajna tomorrow in my house. Can you come? And at least we should know what that means. Can it even be done? Right? So we need to have some idea what it means. So Agnihotra Yajna has to be done twice a day. 2 times a day. It has to be, and we have to offer a lot of milk in that whole yajna, and it has to be officiated by 4 priests. So as soon as somebody says, I'm doing Agnihotra, you can say, who's doing it? Oh, this person is doing it. Oh, just 1 priest or 4 priests? Oh, no, 1. Then you know, right? And when are you doing it? You're doing it just 1 time or what? Oh, yeah, just 1 time. Then we know what kind of sacrifice is going on. So it is not that we need to become pundits in this sacrifice or knowing all these types of sacrifice, but it gives us a glimpse that what it actually should be, just as an overview. We don't need to get into the details, not required. Then the second yajna is that Darsha Purnamas. So this is, as it says, Darsha and Purnamas. Darsha is the new moon and Purnamas is the full moon. So on the full moon and the new moon day, these sacrifice is done. It is made with rice cakes, offerings, oblations are made, right? And there are 11 types of offerings that is made in this sacrifice. Again, it has to be officiated by 4 priests. Then we've got Chaturmasya, which is something that I guess we all know. The 4-month sacrifice, with the last month being in the month of Kartik, where you refrain from eating 1 food item, voluntarily you give up. And a lot of sages, sadhus, they strictly follow this vrata. In fact, in Bhagavatam, we have this story of Narad Muni, of how he was explaining his previous life history, where these sadhus or bhakti vedantis, they came to his house during the Chaturmas and they stayed in his house that time. And he got the opportunity, like with his mother, to serve them, eat their remnants, and eventually move on to purify himself and become Narad Muni. So that's Chaturmasya. Then there is Pashu Yajna. Pashu Yajna, as it says, and Prabhupada mentions in the word for word, is Yajna where animals are sacrificed. And in the purport also he writes that animals like hogs and cows were offered in the sacrifice to test the proper execution. Whether this sacrifice is being done properly or not is the test that they need to conduct. by offering the animal in the fire. If the animal comes out with a more youthful body than currently it has, then that means the yajna is executed properly and you will get the result. So Prabhupada here mentions sacrificing animal doesn't mean you kill it and put it in the fire, roast it and eat it, but it is to test the efficiency of the Vedic mantras. So that is very important. And then the last one that he did, Bharat Maharaj did, was Soma Yajna. So Soma Yajna also, there are different types. There are some places I was reading, there are 7 types of Soma Yajna. And one of those types, so primary type is the Agnishtoma, which Prabhupada mentions in other places as well. Agnishtoma Yajna and Vajpaya Yajna. And in the Mahatmyam of Bhagavad Gita, some of you may be aware, in the Bhagavad Gita Mahatmyam, it is said that if we are able to read or recite just 3 chapters of Bhagavad Gita out of 18, any 3 chapters if you are able to recite, we get the same benefit of performing a Soma Yajna. And Soma Yajna also is very, as I said, very elaborate. Very, very elaborate. Again, the 4 priests are required, a lot of offerings. All of this is done. So we have to understand that, yes, there are 5 different types of sacrifices given, but the ultimate goal is to satisfy the Supreme Lord by following the proper Vedic guidelines. So why did Bharat Maharaj do that? It is duty, the duty of a king, duty of a householder. And as a result of doing this, in the next few verses, which we will be reading the next few days, we will see that as a result of doing the sacrifices, it's not that Bharat Maharaj wanted. He was doing it as a matter of duty. But as a result of doing, what happened? He was able to, it's mentioned, enjoy the material world for how many years? We'll see that. For how many years? You can't even guess unless you've read it before. But he was able to enjoy for a huge amount of years, like 1 and many, many zeros after that. You take a guess or you listen to it when the speakers talk about it the next couple of days. So he enjoyed this material world, and when we are able to have a situation where we can enjoy, we want to enjoy obviously, and we enjoy. But we forget that all enjoyment will come to an end. This whole aspect or this facilities we have been given to enjoy will be taken away one day. That's the nature of this world. So most of the people, they become oblivious to it, or they are fearful it will be taken away. So they spend all their energy in enjoying, and suck out the maximum pleasure out of it. And plus, kal kisne dekha hai, who's seen tomorrow? Just enjoy today. That is the mindset, especially in present society we live in. But Bharat Maharaj, although he had all facilities and he was able to enjoy for a lot of years, towards the end of that period, before the period finished, towards the end, what did he do? He contemplated. And he wanted to retire from this enjoyment. He wanted to retire from all the family duties, from all the kingly duties. And what did he do? He obviously was training his sons to take over and slowly step behind. So this whole culture of training, empowering and handing over is very important. Whether it is a kingdom, whether it is a house, whether it is a company, whether it is a business. If we want to ensure that the family tradition or the company tradition should run nicely, should flourish, should grow, even things like preaching programs, which we should treat very seriously as if it's our own company. This is Prabhupada's company. We are here to just help and be an instrument in that. So we get an opportunity to preach, to start a Bhakti Vriksha, Namahata, or any such programs. And somehow or the other we do. But after some time, we have to empower somebody else to grow so that we are able to take on more services, more responsibility. So, but unfortunately, we only think that the king should only empower others, and we are okay. We just continue to do what it is. After us, somebody else will take on the service. That's not my problem. No, it is our problem. We should take that responsibility. If Krishna has given us some service to do for us, don't you think it is our responsibility not only do it sincerely, but to train somebody else so that after we leave, because see, we have to leave. That is a certain, that is absolutely certain. So we are so fortunate that Krishna has given me a service. Why should that service just be stopped or become haphazard after I leave? Whether I leave from this world or I leave from this place or I have to take on some other service. I should always have this in mind that this service I'm doing to the best of my ability. How can I do it even better? That should be our consciousness. And at a certain time, we have to train somebody else to take on that responsibility. So that that service that Krishna has allocated to me should go on uninterrupted and perhaps should even grow. Yeah. So we have to take some responsibility. So here Bharat Maharaj, he before he retired, he handed over this whole kingdom to his sons and he went to Haridwar. It is said that he was on the banks of Gandaki River where Shaligram Shila is found so that he could engage his complete time in full Krishna consciousness. Right? So this is something that is very, very, very important. Now, after saying all of that, Prabhupada mentions that yes, he did so much sacrifices, and he also mentioned those 5 sacrifices that every householder should do. But he also mentions this verse in this purport where it is said that these, in the age of Kali, these 5 things we should not do. So any Pashu Yajna, offering of a horse in sacrifice, offering of a cow, should be completely, it is forbidden. Then even sannyas, giving, accepting sannyas as the fourth ashram is also very difficult to keep the sannyas vows. Then somebody might say, okay, why did Prabhupada give? So sannyas just doesn't mean leaving everything. So the sannyas in terms of the ashram means just giving up everything, complete detachment, nothing with me. I'm on my own. I'm away. I'm on my own. I have no connection with anybody, and I remain like this, and I ultimately give up my body. So that is the general understanding of sannyas. But what we have been given as part of devotional service and people who take up the sannyas order of life under Prabhupada's instructions, what is the main purpose of taking sannyas? The main purpose of taking sannyas is to intensify the devotional service by offering the mind, body, and words. Tridandi sannyasi. 100% to preaching the glories of Krishna. So sannyasi's primary duty is to just preach the glories of Krishna wherever he gets an opportunity. That is more important than breathing for a sannyasi. So we can imagine how important it is. But it is not for everybody. And it is not that somebody has to become a sannyasi only to preach or to become Krishna conscious or to intensify devotional service. Sthane sthita, wherever we are, we can continue to practice bhakti and intensify where we are. But that is an opportunity to come to the level where you are completely surrendered. There is no family or any other attachment that can keep you diverted or slightly away from the path of intense bhakti. So it is there for some, but it is not that everybody has to go through it. So that's one of the things that is not recommended. Second and fourth and fifth is to offer meat to forefathers and of course to beget children in one's brother's wife. So these are completely forbidden. So these verses are very important for us to understand that, hey, if somebody says or mentions about these things, we know it is not bona fide, it is not authorized. We don't have to argue or fight with them if the situation is not right and they are not willing to hear. But at least we understand what we need to do and how we need to react. So at the end of the day, sacrifice is to offer some service to satisfy Vishnu. And the sacrifice is also, as we hear from Prabhupada's another purport in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, 25 purport. He says that sacrifice for a devotee or for a person doing real sacrifice to satisfy Vishnu is two types. So rather than worrying about the 5 different sacrifices householders should do, Prabhupada has given the whole nichod, the essence of all those 5 sacrifices into only 2 sacrifices. And what are the 2 sacrifices? Sacrifice of our worldly possessions. Worldly possessions. So that's why we need to give charity to the devotees, to temples, to wherever preaching programs are going on. And we should offer our own resources, our own body, our own energy to do some form of service. So that is sacrifice of worldly possession. That has to be done on a daily basis. Second is sacrifice in pursuit of transcendental knowledge. So we should constantly sacrifice, give our time to stay connected with Prabhupada's books. For us, Vedic literature is Prabhupada's books. That is sufficient. We don't need to go anywhere else and search for something new. It is all given. And sacrifice can only happen if we accept the supremacy of the Supreme Lord, and our goal is to satisfy Vishnu, satisfy the Supreme Lord. So we are doing sacrifice to satisfy him and to accept that he is a Supreme Lord. I need to surrender, and to show my level of surrender, I need to do this sacrifice. And of course, these 2 sacrifices Prabhupada has mentioned, and he has given us the process by which we are able to do this sacrifice consistently every single day. Right? So in our houses where we've got deities, we are sacrificing our worldly possession for the deities, offering bhoga, the dresses, having programs at home, inviting devotees. We are actually using all our resources, not just the money, but all our resources in offering sacrifice to the Supreme Lord. And second one, when we are able to immerse ourselves in the Vedic literatures. So every day Bhagavatam class, every day apart from class, we should be reading Prabhupada's books every single day, even if it's a little bit. Every single day we should be reading, and that is a sacrifice. When we do these 2 sacrifices, it is as good as doing all the 5 sacrifices. Now, how good can it be? Fantastic. So here Prabhupada, he twice quotes this verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, which we all know. In fact, if you know, you can recite with me. Krishna varnam tisha krishnam sango pangastra parshadam yajnai sankirtana praye yajanti hi sume dasaha. So what does it mean? That Krishna varnam tisha krishnam, that in the age of Kali, that Krishna appears not as in a dark form, he appears in a golden form. So Krishna Varnam Tisha Krishnam. And how does he appear? He appears with Sango, Panga, Astra, Parshadam. So he comes with his associates, Sango, then he comes with his Pango. Sango, Pango, you can say his associates only. Then Astra, his weapons. And we know what is the weapon of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had 2 weapons. 2 weapons. Very, very powerful. First weapon is his appearance, his beauty. So he killed the demonic mentality of people as soon as they had darshan. So when we go and take darshan of the Supreme Lord, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the temple, we come under his radar, and that weapon, his weapon that he carries in Kali Yuga, will act on us when we just take darshan of him. So he kills our demonic mentality just by glancing his eyes on us. So whether we take darshan of him or not, we should allow him to take darshan of us by standing in front of the deity. So that's his first weapon. Second weapon, of course, is the reason why he invented, and it is to spread the glories of the holy name, to give us the Harinam, the chanting of the Mahamantra. So he comes with all these elements as in a golden form, and Yajna Sankirtana Praye. So he inaugurates the Yajna, he inaugurates the Yuga Dharma, which is the biggest sacrifice that we should engage in, and that is Sankirtan Yajna. So we come together, even if we are not with devotees, we need to be constantly somehow or the other looking for opportunities to connect with this Sankirtan Yajna. So this is the daily practice of any devotee, of any serious devotee. Yajanti hi sumedasaha. Now all of these things is there for everybody's information, but only intelligent people, they worship Krishna in this particular form. So that's why worship of Gaur Nitai is a speciality specifically in the age of Kali. Not that other forms of Krishna are not to be worshipped. So if you see, that's why in all the ISKCON temples, there is Radha Krishna and there is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu. So Gaur Nitai and Krishna has to be worshipped together. So this is the Kali Yuga, and of course the goal is to ultimately be at the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna. So remember, we have to do sacrifices, especially as householders, and we have to sacrifice two things, keeping us following in the footsteps of Bharat Maharaj. We don't have to do 5 sacrifices, we just do 2 sacrifices. Sacrifice of our worldly possession and sacrifice of our time and energy to pursue the study of Vedic literature. And that will attract the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And by his mercy, we will not only get purified, we will ultimately attain the goal of human existence if we have the inherent consciousness of constantly training somebody, empowering somebody, and not just retiring, but increasing the intensity of our devotional service. That is our endeavor. Let's do our bit, our best, and let Krishna do the rest. Thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. All right, I'll open up the forum for any questions, comments, feedback.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much for explaining that text is so important, how these Vedic sacrifices and present day sacrifices are two different ways of performing our sacrifices daily, and Prabhupada has made it so easy with the 2 sacrifices daily, what we should do, and we rather do it as this one, sacrificing our worldly things, and second is reading Srila Prabhupada books. That is the whole gist of this text, but not to go follow the whole process of sacrifice, which is very, very tedious, and not many brahmanas are available in this age because of Kali. So without following the long sacrifices process, just do the 2 things and the rest will be done by Krishna. That is the gist of this text. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Okay, any other comments? Heavy sacrifice. People are motivated to do sacrifice now.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you very much for explaining so nicely the purport of this verse, so clearly explaining the points that sacrifice is to be done. And in fact, in Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna was asked Sri Krishna in the last chapter, in the beginning of the last chapter, 18th chapter, Arjuna has asked about renunciation and tego, sannyasa and tego, and Lord Krishna has also opined that by sacrifice only one purifies, because some people say sannyasa, one should give up the sacrifice, the everything should be sacrificed. But Lord Krishna has told three things that Jagya Dan, Jagya, Tapo, and Karma should not be should not be given up, because that purifies us. And he has told, if I can remember, Jagya Dana Tapo Karma not Tajam Karyameva Tat Jagya Danam Tapaschaiva Pavunani Manishina. Because that is the only way of our purification. If we give our, if we, as you have told, that Prabhupada has also introduced that, if we give our possessions, it is not that we are helping anybody, but it is purifying ourselves. And unless we give it, we do not purify. And that is the essence of purification, that when we are doing it, we are purifying ourselves in the process. And sometimes people think that because it is a material concept, people think that he is giving, I am giving mine. But whatever we are giving, everything belongs to the Lord. We cannot give anything. When we give something, we remember that for the Lord we are doing this. So in this way, we are associating with the Lord and purifying ourselves. So that is the purpose of purification. That is the purpose of purification through sacrifice. And you have very nicely explained that Prabhupada has reduced it in the present life. Not ritualistic ceremonies are to be performed for that, but sacrifice has to be performed in this way, by giving our possessions possessions, and giving our body and mind, everything, for this, by reading his books, and in this way associating in the activities of the Lord. Thank you very much, Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu. That was a very nice point. Thank you for adding that. Yes, very, very relevant. Yajna has to be done even for the person who is purified or at that stage of life. Thank you, Prabhu. Very helpful.
Regularly doing those three things, we always purify, because Lord is the purest of the form of pure. So if we don't get purify ourselves, we cannot get connected, and that is the source of connection.
Correct. Absolutely right, Prabhu. Okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I want to
Prabhu,
add.
Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
I want to add two or three sentences. Nicely, class, Suhrit Krishna Prabhu. Thank you very much. And you have explained like we need to do 5 sacrifice every single day in detail. So very nicely and with faith, Shraddha, that is most important, as King Bharat Maharaj has done. Then, first time ever heard 4 types of priest needed with definitions. So, very nicely explained. And types of yagnas, what King Maharaj was used to do, 5 types of uh, yagnas. And there was for like what King Bharat has got enjoyment, and it's supposed to have end as well, and how to hand over with uh, more responsibility, like to perform these duties. And lastly, in the age of Kali, what we need to take of it and how to do sacrifice as a devotee. So very nicely explained, Prabhuji. Hari Bol, Hare Krishna, Hare
Hare Krishna,
Krishna.
Prabhu. Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Hare
You.
Krishna.
Or Melbourne devotees.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Okay. Any other comments?
Prabhuji, just I wanted to know, you said
Yes.
those 5 sacrifices, about the 5, 6, every day we have to do. So do we have to do it? I could not get it there. I missed the little bit of
The 5 types of yajna.
Yeah.
Yes, you've got to do it. Are you not doing it?
I don't know.
Yeah. So as I mentioned at the end, Prabhupada has given us the 2 types of sacrifice that we should be doing every day, which Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu also recapped. So by those 5 types of yajnas are fulfilled and or are considered done when we do the 2 types of sacrifices every day. And one is to sacrifice our personal possessions. Whatever we have got, It has to be offered to Krishna. And like I was saying, we are already doing that when we are having deities at home. We are naturally doing it. And the second is when we make an sacrifice of our intention and our study of the transcendental Vedic literature, which is for us Prabhupada's books. So as long as we are doing these two things every single day, which every devotee is doing, if they're really following Prabhupada, then by default we are doing that sacrifice. Now our duty is to intensify as much as possible.
Thank you, Prabhuji. I just missed that part. Because I was thinking we are doing all those, and then why do we have to do the 5 once again? Thank you very much.
All right, any other comments? Okay. 33. We'll conclude here today.
Yeah, Vancha Kalpataru.
Kalpatarubhyascha kripa Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Shri Krishna Prabhu ki jai.
Hari Hari Bol.
Hare Hare Bol.
Krishna.